Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my guide for Street Demon Techie. This is basically the new AP version of the Strategist Anp board that's been popular before. In fact, it's very similar, only switching out a few units. So if we look at our old StratAnt board that if you played the first patch, you're probably really familiar with this level 9 board. Um, Echo, Nico, Yumi, Annie, and Mordekaiser. Am I missing? Yumi? So this was basically the StratAnt board in level 9. It's actually pretty similar, except Annie got some really big nerfs, and Samira also got really big nerfs. I don't know why I have two Annies in here. Am I missing a unit? I am. Who am I missing? Oh, Ziggs, of course. Starboss Strategist. Yeah, so Annie got really big nerfs, and Samira got really big nerfs. So the much better variation to play on the current patch is instead of Annie, Samira, and Yumi, you'll play your techies. So Zyra, which is nice because it's a much cheaper unit brand, and then a lot of times you'll have Mundo, which will kind of give you this bruiser transition before you have Kobuko. The board doesn't fit as cleanly as some other boards because you're 3 out of 2 bruiser. If you want, if you're really capping out, you can replace this with Samira. The board looks, I mean, the synergy bar looks nicer. But I find that you're not. I've played this board several times now. I've never actually been able to make it here and also itemize the Samira. Um, yeah, but there's really similar board. There's a lot of advantages to this one compared to StratAnt. First of all, the board is not super expensive. You're playing 2 1 costs compared to 0 1 costs from before. So it's just a lot more viable. You don't have to open or cipher or take econ augments into this. Um, in fact, it's very easy to play from tempo. If you have AP items, I actually would recommend prioritizing holding Zyra and Dr. Mundo just because of how many street demons there are. There's only Echo, I think, in the 2 cost slot, but there's Jinx and Rengar, so it's not too unlikely to get Street Demon online pretty early. Other than that, these 2 units pair with quite a lot of units. There's a lot of 1 cost or and 2 cost bruisers. There's Darius and Alistar. Um, Also Mordekaiser and Gragas. I shouldn't say 1 and 2 costs. There's a lot of cheap bruisers to pair with Dr. Mundo. If you hit Mordekaiser, he's actually both, so really nice here. And there's a lot of cheap techies to pair with your backline. So for your frontline in the early game, you can go any bruiser. For your backline, you can go any techie. Something like this, and slowly work your way up, eventually fitting in Street Demon, fitting in just more bruisers or techies. So it's pretty common. You could go like Shyvana plus Fiddlesticks. You could go another common setup with Shyvana is if you have Poppy plus Vigar, you'll get a little bit of a synergy here with Cyberboss. Not super relevant. I would avoid building blue buff in this comp mainly because your endgame carries are going to be Brand and Ziggs. Ziggs is 70 mana, Brand is 70 mana, so blue buff basically tanks 70 down to 60, so pretty bad. Ideally, you have Shojin. They actually use pretty much the exact same items. I think your absolute best in slot you can have is going to be Guardbreaker Dual Gauntlet, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. If you have to make Giant Slayer, I would say Shojin's the most important item on both of them, so try really hard to get that. Um, but if you don't have exactly Guardbreaker, Dual Gauntlet, Giant Slayer is fine. Death Cap is okay, but you have a lot of AP, so it actually is less value in this comp. And rods are kind of hard to come by. But if you have too many, Death Cap's definitely okay. Gunblade's okay if you have too many rods and swords, but not that amazing because your frontline has a lot of raw HP. It doesn't have a lot of resists, so the Gunblade healing value is not that much. Shiv is going to be fine, especially if you have, again, too many of the components. You definitely need either Shiv or Spark, one or the other. Until you find Viego, magic. Your entire team is doing magic damage, and you have no shred at all until Viego. I guess Fiddlesticks provides a little bit, but it's not super consistent. Shiv, of course, a lot of the value of the item is in the utility, so ideally you don't have it on your main carry. So if we have like a 2-star brand here, I would try to be moving our Shiv off and then getting another item here. You want to try and mix AP and attack speed items. So again, Jewel Gauntlet Guardbreaker kind of being your premium build, but let's just say we have something like this. Oh wait, maybe something. Oh, Nashers. Why am I so confused? Oh, I just want to showcase like some other items you can build. Normally, you're not going to be building Archangel just because Rod and Tier are both extremely valuable components, but you'll want to kind of mix and match your AP and attack speed. So something like this. You would not want to do something like this on both units, right? Because Brand has too much attack speed, Ziggs has too much AP. You want to kind of balance it out between your two carries. Um, anyway, transitioning from the mid game, you could have something like this, and it's actually kind of nice. Vigar is a really nice transition piece because you're not going to find Koboko for a long time usually. So you can actually have Vigar giving Cyber Boss to Ziggs, which is really nice. Um, you'll usually have, so basically on your level 8 roll down, hopefully you'll have Nico and Echo. If you don't have every single one of these units, it's okay because we are looking for 3 different forecasts, so we might not always hit all of them. But yeah, you could go for a board like this or something. Hopefully you have Mordekaiser here. And then we're 5 techie, so maybe we have an extra slot. Actually, yeah, so this would be our level 8 board, basically, without legendary. So this comp is really nice because it can really easily just play bruiser techie starting from stage 2 and transition that into stage 3. You can play around Shyvana, Poppy, Vigar. Potentially, it doesn't have to be that unit, those units at all. You can just play Street Demons, Techies, Bruisers, and then on level 8, you have this really nice fitting board together before you find your legendaries. And once you find Koboko, you can just drop Vagar. You'll go down in Techies, so at level 9, hopefully you'll find Viego. And once again, our board looks pretty clean. We are 3 out 2 Bruiser, but that's okay, don't worry about it. Koboko also got a really big nerf in the B patch. So always give your Cyber Boss to Ziggs if both are equal. I would say normally you're going to give your Cyber Boss to Ziggs, but you might have some games where you have like a 2-star Koboko and a 1-star Ziggs with no items. Just of course use your common sense here. But in general, you want to be Cyber Bossing Ziggs here. And Ziggs and Brand will be your duo carry. You're going to want team-wide anti-heal if possible. So red buff or Morello. I think Ziggs is a better holder of it personally, but I think either one honestly could hold it. Again, as I mentioned with Shiv, red buff and Morello are a lot of the value is in the anti-heal, so the actual raw stats that it gives a unit is going to be a lot less than if you have, something like a guard breaker. So ideally, you have your weaker unit hold the Morello or red buff, and then your stronger unit hold your damage items. This will just depend on who used 2-star first. I would say if you have both of them 2-starred, I think Brand is a little bit stronger, but they're close enough. Definitely just whoever you 2-star first. And it's also if you have a pair of one of them, like let's say you have a Ziggs pair and only one Brand, then I might just put my important items on Ziggs. It also depends how many removers you have, of course, because if you have a lot of removers, then that can affect things too. Garen is a really good addition to this board if you can fit him. Honestly, you can probably just drop Mundo and go down to 4 Street Demon if you hit a Garen. Street Demon, the 3 to 5 to Street Demons gain double is, and you might have Brand on Signature Hex. So basically, 3 Street Demon is going to be 15 AP for Brand, double and then 50%, while the 5 piece is going to be 25 AP for Brand. So it goes from 15 to 25 from 3 to 5. So it's actually only a 10 AP difference when you're already getting 50 from techies. It's actually not that impactful. But yeah, Garen is really good. You can give techie to Ziggs, that's 40 AP. You can give Strategist to Brand. That's 18% more damage amp. 27 total, but he already gets 9. You can give Bruiser to Viego, who his passive, he scales off his max HP. So if you have a Bruiser Viego 2, every time an enemy unit dies, he's healing for, it says 158 here, but a lot more than that if you have Bruiser on him. Just a lot of really good mods you can give. This is, of course, kind of capping out, and if you do want to go back to a 5 Street Demon, if you're really rich, maybe you can fit in a Samira. Frontline items, I find myself building Spark pretty often, just because you need Magic Shred. Viego and Fiddle will both provide. Viego and Fiddle both provide a little bit of shred, but neither is super reliable, and it's also 20% instead of 30%. So I find myself almost always building Spark, just because Shiv is really hard to build because you want 2 Shojins, ideally. So you're just usually not going to have that many tiers. And then you want backline anti-heal because these guys both do a lot of AoE damage. So you have something like Sunfire. It's going to be okay, but you really want to burn a lot of units at once with this comp since you're going to be doing a lot of area effect damage. Crown Guard is pretty nice to make in this build just because eventually you can move it to Viego and Kobuko. Mostly Viego, honestly. Kobuko is pretty whatever after the nerf. Gonna be a really good item here. Very late game, some healing on Viego is okay, but I would never itemize for this guy. You'll just get him late game, and you can use your late carousel picks for him. Definitely don't itemize for him in stage 3 or anything like that. Anything else I want to talk about with this comp? Cybernetic Uplink, if you hit this augment, is probably the strongest augment for this comp. Piercing Lotus is also really, really good. You don't need to build Spark then. And then it's just really good on AP units in general because AP units by default cannot crit with their spells. But every unit has 25% base crit, so Lotus will allow you to take advantage of that. Positioning wise, Sejuani is really popular these days. There's a lot of people playing Exotech or Nitro plus Sejuani. Make sure you're not getting your carries hit by Sejuani. Sometimes you'll get the Street Demon Hex that I think it looks something like this, basically. And then you can have another unit here. You'll have a Street... There's a Street Demon Hex that... I don't know exactly how it looks, something like this. If someone is putting a Sejuani in front of your entire board, don't be afraid to just last second do something like this. Losing Street Demon, you're losing 25 AP on Brand. You're losing like 10 AP on Ziggs if he's on a signature hex, which is honestly nothing. Is going to be a lot more valuable than not getting stunned by Sejuani, especially if it's like a 7 Exotech player and their Sejuani cast twice. That's going to be the most important thing against Sejuani. Against Zed, a lot of people will put their Zed right here, so they'll target your corner so you can just do like a last second swap over here to avoid that. If you don't, if you're kind of hedging, you could also just move Ziggs and give Brand Street Demon, since Street Demons, of course, gain double bonus. So that way, at least one of your carries won't be stunned. But normally, I like to have these two together so they're attacking the same unit. Nico 2 is better than Mordekaiser 2. Nico 2 is better than Kobuko 1. This was kind of reversed from last patch. Kobuko got really big nerfs. Mordekaiser 2 is better than Nico 1. Brand 1, oh, this is important. Brand 1 and Ziggs 1, once you hit these guys, are better than any of your other backline carries. So even if you have like a Vigar 2 or a Zyra 2, if you hit Brand 1 or Ziggs 1, put your important units on these guys. That's going to wrap it up on this video for Street Demon Techie. Just also maybe AP Flex. Once I do want to mention, you can end up in the StratAnt board just depending on what you hit. For example, if you just find Annie 2 on your roll down, since the boards are so similar, you can definitely end up in this board. You just don't play Zyra, and then you can play a Yumi over here, and this is basically the exact same board, right? So you can end up in this, but I find it's not that common just because yeah, just when you're rolling down, you're likely to find Brand Ziggs. And not Samira and Annie. Annie too. This is a lot weaker, but of course you can still play this. You don't need blue buff on Annie. You can just play it with Shojin, but of course Annie's best item is blue, which you really don't want to have built. You're probably not gonna have that many tiers, so it's possible, but probably not that common. But I figured I'd mention it. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the TFT coaching Discord. And thanks for watching.